my mom was always whip smart, and she started not being able to keep track of things. When I was coming to visit, we just kept having repetitive conversations about when I was coming, when I was leaving. She would think that I didn't tell her when I was coming or leaving. And then I visited her, and there was one really telling visit when I was with her, and she just could not keep times and things straight. She was losing things 6 months to a year prior to these really clear signals. There were times when I was just thinking, okay, she's not remembering words. She's a little bit moodier. And then the balance factor, but we were just really writing it off on COVID, isolation, and her not exercising. And so I started having the conversation with her that we need to start maybe looking at you not living alone a lot.
And trying to figure out what our lives were going to be like with your mom living in the same state, in the same city, when she had days before or weeks before been living across the country.
I thought dementia was just somebody's getting old and they're losing some of their memories. It was thrown around in my family about some of my grandparents, and it just meant a little bit of forgetfulness. Turns out she has a brain disease or a brain situation, a brain disorder, and always thought it would be something else. But it was pretty traumatic and scary, and we had no idea what we were doing. We just felt like children trying to navigate an unknown world, because we didn't know how to navigate the healthcare system. We didn't know how to find a place for her to live or what kind of care she would need.
There was a lot of anxiety. It was like the blind leading the blind. Like, we didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what we should be doing. We didn't know how to really take care of her.
There's also this fear that we would completely lose ourselves in this, because it was so exhausting, especially in the beginning, without understanding, and so upset. And so both as individuals and our relationship, we were worried that we would completely lose ourselves. And and we just felt very lonely in it as well, because family was very far away and not really in it.
Didn't get it.
They didn't understand.
Our friends didn't get it. Nobody our age was really going through it.
We're just horribly lost and overwhelmed. I have a great therapist. And so I was describing all I was going through to her. And she said, I know someone awesome. Here's the link to Dr. Sinclair and her academy.
And I remember just like, not even the session, I think it was a consultation. And it felt like such a relief for you to ask us questions and for us to start to talk through it.
Going with the analogy of we got dropped on this horrible island, it's like you were the ship that came and found us. Felt like we were finally seen.
I think not just for how it was going to support your mom, but also how it was going to support us.
Both the person with dementia and us, and it is all consuming. And then, there were a lot of different things on the Alzheimer's Association, but self-navigating all of that is overwhelming. And then it's really easy to get into a hole and freak yourself out. I would say the books and audiobooks, those were the most helpful, but it was mostly just giving us a recognition of, okay, there are stages of this.
What to expect.
Yeah. And we need to figure out a plan, what we're going to do, and our life is fully changed. That was the biggest thing that I figured out.
I think it was easy, though, when we were getting educated to just, fall into a hole, to feel really bad. It's sad. It can just feel all encompassing, all overwhelming.
And it didn't deal with any of the day-to-day interactions that we were experiencing and how to be better at those. Like, we didn't have all that. We had this is what the stages are. This is how they'll deteriorate. These are all the terrible things that happen, but it was nothing really focused on the caregiver.
It didn't even really occur to me that we could get trained on this. Like, I didn't even know there was an opportunity to become somebody who could deal with this.
And what has been the most pivotal sort of learning experience for you guys?
So communication, also being able to assess situations. What's a symptom? What could trigger a symptom? Advocating in the healthcare system, learning about the different loops and cycles that they can go through. And so learning about what they might be experiencing so that we can understand better what to do, what might be happening in their brain, what might be their symptom that's causing XYZ, what is the void they're trying to fill. Yeah, so not just communication, but more what's their experience, what's happening, how do we address the situation, how do we pause and assess if they are skills, and how do we practice them. That's been huge. And understanding the science of it too has been helpful as well.
I think I underestimated the science. At first, I was like, that's not that helpful for me, but it's something that I've continued to go back to and think about. And the framing of the disease initially, thinking of it more objectively has been helpful, because I think it can feel very emotional. It can feel very personal when you don't understand what are the underlying biological symptoms that are happening. I think the other piece was the role plays. The modules were helpful, but what was super helpful was the live role playing. We have this specific issue. Can we figure out how we might get out of this loop? Let's practice it. And then I think the last thing was just obviously having other people that we could speak to. The community has grown substantially for us as we've continued to get to know the other folks. And it just feels good coming out of those conversations.
It's very validating. Yeah, having community is great. We're not on Dementia Island alone.
I feel more prepared for developments that are going to happen, that we're going to see, because I know more or less how to handle them. Feel like I can learn how to handle them, go back into the parts of the courses that weren't relevant at the time, but maybe now are.
The things that don't make sense that come out of my mom's mouth, we are able to make sense of.
And while that's still true to some extent, I think we are able to retain more of ourselves in our lives because we have this awareness.
We became all consumed, and yeah, now we're able to understand the resources better, who we should tap into, and how to get my mom to key appointments, how to manage systems better to keep her from being on the road, for example, who to lean on for that, and how to get someone else to help us make that decision so it doesn't all come back on us.
Sasha, I remember also you saying that you have seen a shift in Brunson as well.
Sometimes it takes some time to reground ourselves, but certainly at the beginning, this big shift from an overwhelm, like fear, anxiety, deeply upset, to being able to use the skills that we're learning and apply them, but like to be able to take a course where it's actively making improvements on your life and helping you manage the day-to-day, like that week or the next week. And I think the other thing is that I actually feel more like a capable caregiver versus we were caregivers before. We're going to be caregivers, but we have a map for what we need to be doing and how we need to handle it.
Get off the fence.
I would say if you feel like you need support for how you're going to interact with the person who has dementia in your life, if you feel like you need guidance and some more clarity and education, then this is for you. You might be just fine, but if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling confused, if you don't know what you need to be doing or how to proceed, or if you just honestly want additional support through the process, I think it's the right path.
But yeah, the unpredictability factor is, I think, for me, one of the most important things that I wanted to address and that I find helpful. I think that's important and enough of a reason to dive in, because it's just a horrible feeling when that first moment when you come across something that you had never faced before. You're able to take care of it